I've had a pretty chill Sunday, to be honest with you. I mean, mostly you could tell because I think I've had like a full pack of cookies today. Had a little nap on the sofa afterwards. Didn't realize it was a bit of chocolate. I mean, in hindsight, I should have probably just changed my t-shirt. Besides the point. We're going to talk about the national qualifiers that went on yesterday. Everybody who was playing in the national qualifiers, if you didn't know, it was the top 16 seeded teams that aren't already in the last chance qualifier for pools for Vegas, or in pools for Vegas. So then every single region, I say every single region, not every country in the world, of course, but the UK, Spain, France, Germany, Australia, Canada, Japan, and the USA, of course, had their national qualifiers on Saturday. And I said mostly made up of teams who aren't qualifying for pools or close to qualifying for pools. And the winning prize was a trip to Vegas to compete in CWL Vegas. Of course, just going to run through each team that qualified, my thoughts on how far they can go at Vegas, how they can do in the rest of the season, and ultimately, can they qualify for that Pro League qualifier? A couple of teams in here that I don't know too much about, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt on those. I will notify you when we get to them, but realistically, I know quite a lot about some of the other teams, specifically more the European ones. So let's get into it and let's see if I think they can make that run for the Pro League Last Chance qualifier. Now, let's go to the UK first. It was Team Sweden, or formerly Team Sweden. It's there's a few members from Team Sweden from Champs in there, but the roster is Brain, Nilsson, Quicker, Dylan and Weeman. They just brought Brain in, dropping Neville, who's now been dropped from two different teams in the beginning of this season, which ultimately stemmed not from his talent. It seems as if his English just isn't good enough to keep up with the 5v5 comms. And Brain's been a player who's been around for a while. He was formerly on Giants on the Spanish team, and he's a very, very solid player. A nice lad as well. Quite often travel with him towards to events because he's from the same area of the UK as me. But let's go into it. Team Sweden, Brain, Nolson, Quicker, Dylan, and Weeman. Now, I said a couple of players on this roster got a decent placement at Champs. And as far as it goes, when we see them in Vegas, I think they can get top 36, because top 36 is where you need to get. Of course, the top 4 automatically qualify. The top 4 from Vegas automatically qualify for... This isn't going well. The top 4 qualify for Pro League in Vegas. Now, everybody else, the other 32 teams in the top 36 go into the last chance qualifier to get to Pro League. Now, do I think this team can get top 36? I'd absolutely say so. They're made up of a team who have been there before, some good placements at previous events, some players who have been at the top of Europe on the odd occasion, notably a few of them from that Hyper Games squad that were really, really good a few years ago. Now, these guys have been doing really well online, a couple of good 2K placements, and they didn't have a very easy final last night when they played against Revolt and his boys, but I think realistically, I'm expecting them to get top 36. Watch out for them in Vegas. Could be an outside chance of a run at pool play. It wouldn't surprise me too much. Now, let's move into the team I'm probably most excited for out of all the national qualifiers, and that's actually Heretics. I think, let's run through the roster before I delve into it. So it's Method, Sukri, Journey, Lucky, and Metals, of course. Now, as I said, I think that this team, for all that they've been doing really well online recently, we haven't seen it at LAN yet for this year. Of course, we haven't seen anybody at LAN yet, but all these 2K results, a lot of people seem to be putting on the back of online performances, that sort of thing, but they always seem to be fairly solid. We seen last year that I'm just going to run through a couple of results. As you can tell, I've got a sheet up because my face is white, but they got some decent results last year, some top 20s, top 24 at Champs as well, which is pretty decent. I think they should easily make the top 36, and I think they have an outside shot of getting to the Pro League. Now, I would say they're one of the only teams in the national qualifier teams that I expect to potentially get into Pro League, get that top 16 at the qualifier. Top 16 will be the top 12 at the qualifier. I think they have an outside shot to do that. The rest of them, I'm not too sure, but I think Heretics have got a good shot. We've seen that they seem to be one of the main teams that a lot of the good teams in Europe scrim against. We see them playing against Reciprocity all the time. We see them playing against Red all the time. Didn't have a very good game against Red the other day, who seemed to be running through them when they only picked up 8 points in an Arsenal hard point, but irrelevant. I think they're a very solid team, and they are the biggest threat of the national qualifiers for this tournament. I think they could definitely get towards pools. Let's see how they do, though. As I said, they've had good performances at previous lands as well, and they've been playing well online. Put 2 and 2 together, you expect them to potentially be doing something. Realistically, I just want the Spanish likes. But no, really, I do actually think that they should do fairly well. Let's move on to France. Now, Wales' team was the one as expected to win that one. It was Whalers, Zeeked, Sunrise, Risking, and Breezy. As said, it was expected. I mean, they come up against Supremacy in the grand finals in 2 best out of 5s and walk away as winners of that one. So a relatively close game, but they seem to be the most talented team in France right now. We often talked about Whalers a few years ago to say, what would he do on a UK team? Would he be any good? Could he bring that talent that we see in these French teams to the UK teams? The answer was no. We didn't really see him do a great deal. A couple of okay performances over the years, but now we're seeing an all-French lineup for the most part. I think they're all French anyway. So let's see how they do. It's a mix of experience in France and a mix of new young talent coming in. I think they could do okay. I think it'll be hard for them to get top 32 or top 36, I should say, but they could potentially do it. Now, that's only a few wins, and they'll have some decent pro points, actually. So let's see how they do. They're a team that potentially could make that Pro League qualifier, but I'm not 100% sure on them. Let's move to Germany. Kivi's team was the one to win this one, and Kivi, Phantom, Piero, Sharko, and Cookie are their roster. Now, they've got Kivi, who has long time been the best player from, people say Germany, he's actually from Austria, but, you know, both these two countries often play together in teams and don't speak the same language, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it makes sense, but he's got a decent roster surrounding him. They've had a couple of decent 2K performances. They actually got knocked out in the semi-finals by Heretics last week. They did get 3-0'd, but I remember Kivi saying on Twitter, you know, we got things to learn. Heretics are a very good team, but they seem to be doing all right. Again, it is online, so take it with a pinch of salt. And typically, German teams have never really done the business at LAN, but they've got stuff to work on. They have the potential. Again, I put them in the same sort of bracket as Whalers and Co. Potentially going to be able to make a run at getting top 36, which is ultimately what everybody's aiming to do at this event, apart from win it, of course. But I think they've still got stuff to work on. But as I said, I would put them in the same bracket as Whalers' team, one of those teams that could potentially make it to the qualifier, but I think it's going to be maybe a little bit of a push. Let's move over to the other side of the planet. Let's move to Australia. It was Team Obsidian that have managed to win their qualifier. Now, this is Cruz, Dean, Lackey, Tyson, and Bakabek. Now, this is a makeup of a previous roster that got a top 64. I think it was Anaheim or something like that. So I know Cruz is one of the main guys in Australia who's out in socials, been a big supporter on my stream when I streamed as well. So a really good guy, and I want to see them do really well. But a top 64 with 3 of that roster. I think it was Tyson and Bakabek in that roster with Cruz. The top 64 previous events doesn't really bode too well for getting top 36, of course. But let's see. Like, they're another team who have potential. There's a few Australian teams actually going over by the sense of things. It sounds like 3 or 4. So be interesting to see how the Australians do this year. But the level of competition has stepped up once again. I put them in the same bracket. Maybe they make top 36, but it's a big push. There's some good North American teams going to be turning up to this Vegas event. There's some good European teams going to be turning up as well. They're going to have to bring their A game to make sure they do have a chance at qualifying. Another good team that will be there are the Canadian National Circuit qualifiers. That's Morituri, that's Miyagi, Evan, Jimbola, Stumpfi, and Archives. I mean, I'll be honest, the only player that I'm relatively aware of here in this team is Miyagi, but he's been around for a few years. He's got the experience, a couple of decent placements here and there last year, but nothing too crazy, like top 32s, top 64s, that sort of thing. But it's a very easy victory in that region. Now, I just don't know if there's any indication of how they're going to do, but they are a team that could potentially do it. Let's see. I'm not going to talk with them too much because, as I said, I don't really know too much about them, but keep an eye on Morituri. Let's move to Japan, actually. Rush Gaming have managed to win their their national qualifier, of course. The roster is Greeds, GP, Hunt, Luke, and Winred. Now, they're infamously the team that came over at one of the events, I think. What was it? Maybe Anaheim, where they came over, they scrimmed against C United and had a little bit of a boot camp beforehand. They didn't get very far. They were in and around the top 80 mark. So, again, I don't expect them to go much further than this. Again, I would love them to because it'd be great to have some more support for a big team in another region. They do have a lot of support, but if they had success, that furthers their legitimacy in the CWL and the reason that we've seen Japan be given a national qualifier. Let's see how they do. As said, top 80 last event, but it's a new game. It's the first event of the game. There's a lot to play for. They might have figured out some crazy meta that we just don't know about. So let's see how they do. And let's see if the Japanese team can bring it to the table. Let's go to the very last team, which is going to be GG Midnight. Now, expect these guys to do pretty well. Although I don't really know too much on this roster. I'm just reading into this because of who they beat in the grand finals. They beat Teddy Rex, Zaptius, Rambi. Those guys who had a fantastic time of things. I think it was on Lethal in Champs. I commentated over them so many times. Zap gave me one of the best commentating moments I had last year as well when they went up. I think it was against not Unilad. It would have been against Vitality because that was when Tommy was playing with them, of course. But I think they could potentially do something. You know, when you look at who they've beat, they're obviously a good team. Obviously, as I said, this is online, so take it with a pinch of salt. But they beat some very decent players to get to this point. They could be a team to keep an eye on in Vegas. And again, this is talking, most of these teams need to just try and aim to get that top 36. That is their goal when they get to Vegas. I'm sure we're going to cover it plenty when we're there as well. If I'm there, of course. Nothing confirmed yet. I would like to think I'll get an invite, hopefully. We need our token Northeastern man over in the USA in Vegas. Plus, I just really want to go to Vegas, to be honest. Never been. Anyway, that was the the national qualifier results, and these are the teams that have made it there now. They're going to be going over to Vegas for an opportunity to qualify for the Pro League qualifier. There's a lot of qualifying that's going on here, isn't there? I'm talking about so many different ones. There's the qualifiers to get into pools, your last chance qualifiers to get into pools, there's your qualifying for Pro League, your qualifiers for the qualifier. There's qualifiers all over the shop. It's the first event of the year. It's a Sunday night. My head's clearly not in the game. But anyway, expecting big things from a few of these teams, expecting maybe one of them to potentially make it in that Pro League. I'm looking at Heretics specifically. Guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave your thoughts whether I should be wearing a hat and headphones anymore, because realistically, I'll be honest, my hair's looking trash today. That's the only reason I'm leaving it. And I'm not even going to show you. I'm waffling a little bit here, I'll be honest. But as I said, leave comments below who you think could potentially qualify for the qualifier to get into the Pro League and what you think will happen at Vegas for these teams. And I said, if you did enjoy the video, please leave it a like, comment, and subscribe as well. It would mean the world to us here at EGL. We're going to have to try and get a new mic stand as well. Guys, we will see you for the next video.